5 that we're using this month. There is scraplifting a layout. So here's the layout that I'm going to scraplift. That's by Marianne Maldonado for paper issues. And then we have hearts using a cardstock background, splatters, and stamping. So I'm just going to start with this cardstock as my background. I'm kind of using Valentine's-y colors because it's February, so why not? And these are all part of my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit. But I'm not doing a Valentine's layout. I'm actually doing this picture from World Adoption Day 2020. So I thought the hearts would work really well for this. They really fit in. And then the sort of like streamer banners from Mary Ann's inspiration photo. You can see I'm actually checking it out right there. I thought that also kind of worked because for us, this is a day where we just kind of celebrate the uniqueness of our family and the family story that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that cardstock really plain. That's one thing that caught my eye from the Scraplift layout is I just really like how clean the background is on that white cardstock. So I'm not going to do any mixed media or any of those things that I tend to want to do when I'm using plain cardstock. I'm just going to leave it that color. It actually looks a lot darker on screen than it is. It's much more pink in real life. Here it kind of looks almost more purpley or mauve. I don't know if that's how it looks on your camera, the way that you're watching it, but it is kind of a lighter pink. And then I found some white and pink twine that I can use for the strings of my banner. And I wanted to get that down first so that I knew how much room I had for my picture and for any little embellishments or anything that I might be putting along those banners and also kind of beside the photo. So I did cut my picture down just a little bit. And then now I'm going to give it some mats. This is actually a paper pad I think I got from my friend Sherry, and it's just these 3 different colors of wood grain papers, and so I used 1 sheet of each so that there are 3 layers of matting. This white layer that you saw, I only put adhesive around the 2 sides on the bottom edge. So I kind of created a little pocket just in case I wanted to put some journaling in there. I wasn't quite sure how the embellishments were going to go kind of on the sides of the photo. And so I thought I might as well go ahead and do that. And then if I do want to hide a little bit of journaling or tuck something in there, I can. And if I don't, that's okay. It's still adhered down pretty well. And then with the little scraps of paper, I can go ahead and use those to kind of create some of the banners, which is just like in the layout that I'm scrap lifting. So then I went into all of the fun little ephemera that I have in my kit for this month and pulled out all of the hearts in all the different textures so that this could just kind of have lots of fun elements to the different banners. Each of the banners in the original layout is sort of a different texture. So there is one that looks sort of like enamel dots, and then there's the paper. I can't remember what the third one is off the top of my head, but I kind of wanted to find at least 3 different textures. And of course, hearts is one of the items that we have to use, so why not use a whole bunch of them? So I've got kind of these enamel hearts. They're a little bit chunkier than an enamel dot, but they're just this sort of fun little red heart. And then I pulled some of the wooden pieces off of a few of the clothes pins. And so I've got some pink ones and some red ones and then some gold ones. And then the other texture that I found is some felt. So that word love is actually made out of felt, and the larger red hearts are felt hearts. So a few different textures there. And then here you can see I'm punching a couple different shapes with those leftover pieces of the papers I used. So one banner. At first, I kind of did mix everything up, thinking I would maybe just have all of the banners kind of be a mix of all of the elements, but I want to make sure that that paper kind of had enough space and wasn't covering anything up. So it seemed to fit best in that middle banner. So I went ahead and moved all of the the punched out pieces of paper to that middle element. And then I've moved all of the wood veneer up to the top one. And then I'll go ahead and put the felt down on that lower one. And then these cute little enamel hearts, I'll just kind of scatter those all over to fill in the gaps. So once I kind of, fuss around with those and get everything where I want it to go, I can go ahead and glue it all down. Yes, so here is kind of what that final look is going to be. So at this point, I can check off 3 of the items from the list. I have scrap lifted a layout, I have used hearts, and I have used a cardstock background. So not too bad. In the back of my head, I did remember that I needed to do stamping, but I started to glue things down, and originally I had thought maybe I would stamp one whole banner, and obviously you can see that I'm not doing that, but I will come back to it. I'm just going to kind of quickly glue everything down, and I left some parts of the banner not glued down, the twine not glued down. So then that means that as I'm gluing all these elements down, I can go ahead and kind of fuss around with it and make sure everything fits. And so here you can see when I stick down an element, then I will stick the twine sort of to the top so it looks a little bit more natural. I think in the original layout she may have actually folded the paper over that twine, but I just find that this worked best, and because I was just using the scraps and not using full pieces of paper, I didn't have enough of it, I guess, to kind of fold over. And then for all these other little elements, they obviously don't fold over, and I found that I didn't like the way that they looked when I sort of rested them on top of the twine. So this works a lot better for me, just to stick that element down and then go ahead and kind of just subtly touch the twine with a little glue so it holds in place, touching the tops of these little hearts. And those wooden clothespin hearts, along with the little enamel hearts, those actually come from Dollarama. They always have different clothespins out for every occasion, every season, and I love to grab them, and they actually work really well in scrapbooking. I pulled them off of the clothespin just because I didn't want to add too much bulk to the layout, but the clothespin part is pretty tiny, so you could leave it in your layout if you wanted, or just, tuck those away to use on a different project. And then the felt actually comes from Dollar Tree. So I always find fun little goodies, and I just kind of like to grab a few things here and there that are different from the rest of my scrapbooking stash. So I was kind of happy that I was able to get a bunch of that used up. And then down over here, I used just the very last kind of strips of that wood grain paper to create a little place to put my title. And that is also where I decided to go ahead and do some stamping. So I was able to get a whole row of hearts down at that bottom. And also just to kind of bring some of the black up into the banners as well, I just did 3 little hearts, kind of one on each banner. Because that word love was black as well, it kind of stood out as being extra bold because it was the only black thing on the layout. So that was kind of a good place to go ahead and get some stamping done and bring some more black into the layout. And that little heart actually comes from a Stampin' Up! Stamp set, the T stamp set, which is funny that that's where I got the heart from, but it was just the right size. So now I have the stamping, and then here you can see I just did some splatters in Heidi Swap Color Shine in just the color white. So all of my elements are now on my layout. I got all 5 of them. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I decided to go ahead and do a little kind of journaling card that I could slide into my pocket, and I haven't actually filled it out yet. I haven't journaled on it, but it just is a nice spot where I can jot down a few notes about World Adoption Day and, you know, what that kind of means to us. So I just took some white cardstock and cut it down to the right size, and then I'm going to do just a quick little kind of embellishment with some more of those hearts. I cut a hole in the top so that I can put some twine in there, just almost more to remind myself that it's there and that I can pull it out and do some journaling on it. And I think I go for some black and white twine eventually. And then just to bring some pink into it and kind of tie everything together, I just am going to use those markers to do kind of my doodly border around the edge and then around those little hearts that I stamped. And then here is the black and white twine. It's exactly the same twine as the pink and white twine, so I thought that worked really well. And you can see just that little top kind of pops out. So having that twine and the hole and the twine there is kind of nice to remind me that it's actually some journaling and not just a decorative element. And then so I felt like, again, I love the kind of clean look of the original layout, but I always struggle with it myself. And so when I kind of feel like I'm missing something, I tend to go for the sketchy border. And I thought it was a good opportunity to bring in a little bit more black and white. So I used a paint pen, the white paint pen, to do the white edge, and then a black Sharpie just to go around in black. My title I picked as Celebrate Today, which I'll go ahead and do a little bit of journaling about how we kind of celebrate the idea of adoption. And that is it. That's my layout for this month. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. There are links down below for everybody else who's playing along today. And until next time, happy scrapping. Bye.